Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana. Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hare. Vatita Pavana Gaura Hare. Leta Gaura Haribal, 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 Haribal. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Privajagacharya Ashtottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Prem Se Kaho Si Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Prabhupada Anuga Ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavadi Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavadi Naishtiki. You want to read the verses, the translations first? How does it go? And then we can chant the. From 24 to 33.
Sukadev Goswami continued, in the Ramakya Varsa, where Vaivasvata Manu rules, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as Lord Matsya at the end of the last era, the Chakshusha Manavantara. Vaivasvata Manu now worships Lord Matsya in pure devotional service and chants the following mantra.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is pure transcendence. He is the origin of all life, bodily strength, mental power, and sensory ability. Known as Matsyavatar, the gigantic fish incarnation, he appears first among all the incarnations. Again, I offer my obeisances unto him.
My dear Lord, just as a puppeteer controls his dancing dolls and a husband controls his wife, your lordship controls all the living entities in the universe, such as the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Although you are in everyone's heart as a supreme witness and commander, and are outside everyone as well, the so-called leaders of societies, communities, and countries cannot realize you. Only those who hear the vibration of the Vedic mantras can appreciate you.
My dear Lord, from the great leaders of the universe, such as Lord Brahma and other demigods, down to the political leaders of the world, all are envious of your authority. Without your help, however, they could neither separately nor concertedly maintain the innumerable living entities within the universe. You are actually the only maintainer of all human beings, of animals like cows and asses, and of plants, reptiles, birds, mountains, and whatever else is visible within this material world.
O Almighty Lord, at the end of the millennium, this planet Earth, which is the source of all kinds of herbs, drugs, and trees, was inundated by water and drowned beneath the devastating waves. At that time you protected me, along with the earth, and roamed the sea with great speed. O unborn one, you are the actual maintainer of the entire universal creation, and therefore you are the cause of all living entities. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Sukadeva Goswami continued in Hiranamya Vyasa. The Supreme Lord Vishnu lives in the form of a tortoise, Kurma Sarira. This most dear and beautiful form is always worshipped there in devotional service by Ariyama, the chief resident of Hiranamya Varsha, along with the other inhabitants of that land. They chant the following hymns. O my Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who have assumed the form of a tortoise. You are the reservoir of all transcendental qualities, and being entirely untinged by matter, you are perfectly situated in pure goodness. You move here and there in the water, but no one can discern your position. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because of your transcendental position. You are not limited by past, present, future. You are present everywhere as the shelter of all things, and therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again.
My dear Lord, this visible cosmic manifestation is a demonstration of your own creative energy. Since the countless varieties of forms within the cosmic manifestation are simply a display of your external energy, the Virat Rupa, universal body, is not your real form. Except for a devotee in transcendental consciousness, no one can perceive your actual form. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
My dear Lord, you manifest your different energies in countless forms, as living entities born from wombs, from eggs, and from perspiration, as plants and trees that grow out of the earth, as all living entities, both moving and standing, including the demigods, the learned sages, and the pittas, as outer space, as the higher planetary system containing the heavenly planets, and as the planet Earth with its hills, rivers, seas, oceans, and islands. Indeed, all the stars and planets are simply manifestations of your different energies. But originally, you are one without a second. Therefore, there is nothing beyond you. This entire cosmic manifestation is therefore not false, but is simply a temporary manifestation of your inconceivable energy.
O my Lord, your name, form, and bodily features are expanded in countless forms. No one can determine exactly how many forms exist, yet you yourself in your incarnation as the learned scholar Kabadivela have analyzed the cosmetic manifestations as containing 24 elements. Therefore, if one is interested in Shakya philosophy, by which one can ameliorate the different truths, he must hear it from you. Unfortunately, non-devotees simply count the different elements and remain ignorant to your actual form. I offer my respectful obedience unto you.
Okay, we are going to chant the verse 32. Jarayujam swedajam andajodbhidam characharam devarshi pitrabhutam aindriyam dvaukam kshitihi shaila sarita samudra dvipagraharekshiti abhideya ekaha. That must be very easy, right? Please repeat after me. Jarayujam swedajam andajodbhidam characharam devarshi pitrabhutam aindriyam Yaukam kshitihi shaila sarid samudra द्वीपगृहर्क्षेति अभिधेय एकः जरायुजं स्वेदजं अंडजोद्भिदं चराचरं देवर्षि पितृभूतमैन्द्रियम् द्यौखं क्षितिः शैलसरिदसमुद्र द्वीपगृहार्क्षेति अभिधेय एकः जरायुजं स्वेदजं अंडजोद्भिदं चराचरं देवर्षि पितृभूतमैन्द्रियम् द्यौखं क्षितिः शैलसरित्समुद्र द्वीपगृहर्क्षेति अभिधेय एकः जरायुजं स्वेदजं अंडजोद्भिदं चराचरं देवर्षि पितृभूतमैन्द्रियम् द्यौखं क्षितिशैलसमुद्र द्वीपगृहर्क्षेति अभिधेय एकः रायुजं स्वेदजं अंडजोद्भिदं चराचरं देवर्षि पितृभूतमैन्द्रियम् द्वौकं क्षितिशैलसरित्समुद्र द्वीपगृहर्क्षेति अभिधेय एकः रजम् अंडदोद्भिदम् चराचरं देवर्षि पितृभूतमैन्द्रियम् Mothers, Rayudam Svedajam Andadodvidam Racharam Devarshi Pitrabhutamaindriyam Jarayujam, one born from a womb. Svedajam, one born from perspiration. Andaja, one born from an egg. Udbhidam, one born of the earth. Characharam, the moving and the stationary. Deva, the demigods. Rishi, the great sages. Pitra, the inhabitants of Pitraloka. Bhutam, the material elements. Air, fire, water and earth. Aindriyam, all the senses. Dhyauhu, the higher planetary systems. Kham, the sky. Kshitihi, the earthly planets. Shaila, the hills and mountains. Sarit, the rivers. Samudra, the oceans. Dvipa, the islands, Graha Riksha, the stars and planets. Iti, thus, Abhideyaha, to be variously named. Ekaha, one. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation, my dear Lord, you manifest your different energies in countless forms, as living entities born from wombs, from eggs, and from perspiration, as plants and trees that grow out of the earth, as all living entities, both moving and standing, including the demigods, the learned sages, and the pitas, as outer space, as the higher planetary system containing the heavenly planets, and as the planet Earth with its hills, rivers, seas, oceans, and islands. Indeed, all the stars and planets are simply manifestations of your different energies, but originally you are one without a second. Therefore, there is nothing beyond you. This entire cosmic manifestation is therefore not false, but is simply a temporary manifestation of your inconceivable energy. Purport: this verse completely rejects the theory of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, which states that spirit or Brahman is real, whereas the manifested world with its great variety of things is false. Nothing is false. One thing may be permanent and another temporary, but both the permanent and the temporary are facts. For example, if someone becomes angry for a certain period, no one can say that his anger is false. It is simply temporary. Everything we experience in our daily lives is of this same character. It is temporary but real. The different kinds of living entities coming from various sources are very clearly described in this verse. Some are born from a womb, and some, like certain insects, from human perspiration. Others hatch from eggs, and still others sprout from the earth. A living entity takes birth under different circumstances according to its past activities, karma. Although the body of the living entity is material, it is never false. No one will accept the argument that since a person's material body is false, murder has no repercussions. Our temporary bodies are given to us according to our karma, and we must remain in our given bodies to enjoy the pains and pleasures of life. Our bodies cannot be called false, they are only temporary. In other words, the energy of the Supreme Lord is as permanent as the Lord Himself, although His energy is sometimes manifest and sometimes not. As summarized in the Vedas, Sarvam Khalv Idam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. Om Tat Sat. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Very happy to be here in Dallas, meeting with all wonderful devotees and the community of devotees and their great eagerness to preach the message of Krishna as given in Srila Prabhupada's teachings and in his books. Hari Bol. So I'm going to keep the class a little short and maybe give up some more time for questions. Here, Prabhupada starts the purport by saying that this whole shloka refutes the Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya theory that this world is false and there is Brahman, which is the only truth. See the whole world purpose mentioning in other purports also here. Philosophers, scientists, religionists, spiritualists, all of them have been in search of what is the truth. What is the reality? They're trying to break the code of nature and see how things happen. And there are so many theories and philosophers, but everybody agrees, generally speaking, that there is a reality out there. Vipra ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. There is one truth, and the learned people see it differently. They all have different perceptions of that reality. Like the famous example of the elephant, and the blind men go and feel it in different places. Somebody feels the trunk, somebody feels the legs, somebody feels the tail, and then each one has got their own notions of what this elephant would be. But the elephant is still in the room, as the saying goes. Nobody has still got to understand what it is. It's only when the elephant speaks, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, and says, I am the elephant. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is himself speaking and is mentioned in the purport here. There is no truth above Krishna. Mattaha parataram na anyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mayi sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. Krishna is stating that I am the only truth and I am the highest truth. Everything else comes from me. Everything else comes from me. Janmadyasya yataha yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti. Like this, there are many Vedic aphorisms telling you about that one reality, the absolute truth. And Prabhupada goes ahead to say, the absolute truth is a person, period. He is Krishna, period. He explains that the absolute truth, the reality, is this person called Krishna. Venum kvanantam aravinda dalayataksham. And how is Krishna? He is beautiful. He stands in his three-bended form, and then he blows the flute, and he is full of joy, bliss, and happiness. And he has nothing to do but simply enjoy. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate parashaya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate. God has got nothing to do. Boy, we'll be making the greatest counter statement in this world if we say that we are all followers of that person who has nothing to do, and therefore we also have nothing to do. We don't do. Because this world is a place of work, karma bhumi. But it's true that the reality is that Krishna is a reality and he is a person. And there's no truth above him. Now people would say, other theories like the Prabhupada is quoting the Brahmavadis and their theory that what comes from the Lord, that is not true. That is not true. But maybe Brahman, which they know the truth as being Brahman, all-pervading, that may be true. But what's coming in this world is not true. It's false. So here Prabhupada is clarifying and saying, no, anything that emanates from the absolute truth is true. Anything that emanates from the absolute truth is true. And it is temporary maybe. It's true, but it's temporary. So there's something that is false. Because we heard this so often, right? Maya Devi and illusion and everything. So what is false? What is false is the way you look at it. The way you perceive it, that is false. The Lord's energy is being perceived by you without the factor of God, without the factor of the absolute truth. You look at it for your enjoyment and for your gratification, then it becomes illusion. The illusion is created by you in your perception. But there is a reality there because it's the energy of the Lord. And it is real, just that it's temporary. This is a very distinctively different understanding as per our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. The Mayavadis say one thing. They say that this is false. And that's not true. That is why we are told to use it in the service of the Lord. Then it becomes real. Whatever I have, which I try to enjoy in my sadhana, I try to use everything in the service of the Lord. It becomes real. It becomes real. It tends to become of the nature of the absolute. In this way, devotional service means connecting with the absolute, the Atma connecting with the absolute. And because of that, everything that you do is of the nature of the absolute. Therefore, it's real. Chanting Hare Krishna is absolute because it involves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devotional service that we do of various types, we dedicate it to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it's absolute. In this way, when we associate with the absolute, we also regain our original absolute nature. Because we are part and parcel of the absolute. Mamaivam sajiva loke. So this is the theology and also a philosophy, both together. We need to understand that correctly. How Krishna is associated with all the energies. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's described that you and me are energies of the Lord. But we are superior energy. The Atma is superior energy, para prakriti. But the other aspect of the material world is apara prakriti and para prakriti. Apara means inferior energy, which we use for our gratification and which devotees use to serve the Lord. In this way, the perceptions differ. And this way we understand the absolute truth and his energies. And we also understand that the absolute truth, reality, is a personality. This is a very big jump for many people in this world who cannot understand the concept of the absolute. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how he is the absolute truth. And everything else is relative in this world because it is dependent on the absolute. And that's why he speaks in the 7th chapter about demigods and demigod worship, showing that it is relative in nature. It is not absolute in itself. So when we worship Krishna, we are not just worshipping another god. We are worshipping the Supreme Absolute Truth. And that's why what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is followed by us. Right? This is a distinctive feature. If you go to India, you will see that people worship many different types of demigods. And we are not worshipping Krishna as just another of those gods. We're actually worshipping Ahamadirhi Devanam. I am the source of all the demigods. We are worshipping the source of all the demigods. Right? So we are worshippers of the absolute truth, the reality. We are not worshipping anything relative. If you worship the demigods, you will get a destination in the relative world. Krishna explains it very nicely in Bhagavad Gita. What? Yanti deva vrita devan pitrin yanti pitrivitaha bhutani yanti bhuteche yadimat madhyajino apimam. he says that if you worship the demigods, you go into the demigods' planets, which is inside this world. If you worship bhutas, pretas, and your ancestors and everything, you'll go to their loka, which is also inside here. But if you worship me, you'll come to the absolute world, the spiritual world, right? So, and Krishna describes that also. So everything about the Lord, Krishna, is absolute, and that is the reality. So we have in Krishna consciousness, we have a complete whole picture of the reality, the material world, the energies of the Supreme Lord as living entities and everything. We give a complete picture. But scientists don't give us a complete picture of the truth. They can't. They said they are in the making. It's a work in progress. And philosophers give you something in patches here and there. Nowhere you will see a complete, total understanding of everything together. That's only given in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? That is why when, the Lord Chaitanya comes to Puri for the first time, he ran, seeing the chakra of the Lord. He ran inside and fell down in front of the deities in an ecstatic mood. And then you know that he was there lying down, very beautiful looking, long, body. And all the locals were wondering, what a beautiful looking sannyasi. And they were appreciating his, and he was there, fainted, unconscious. And the pujaris were saying, get this man out. We have to close the place for offering. And they tried to wake him up. He was not awakening. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there. And he was curiously watching. What a young sannyasi. And he looks very attractive too. And then he said, something is happening here. This person is not really fully unconscious. I think he's in one of those trances, high-level spiritual states. And then he put a cotton swab next to his nose and checked it. And he found that yes. So he thought that I should do some more research on this person. And when the pujaris went to, wake him up, beat him and wake him up, he said, don't do it. Bring him home. So since he was a very powerful personality, very influential, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was brought to the house. And there, he let him there to slowly come back to consciousness. But his devotees found him finally there in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. And they came there and they chanted the holy name in his ears, and Lord Chaitanya woke up. And he said, where am I? And then he was told where he was. He was introduced to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And immediately he told Sarvabhauma, thank you very much. You're like my father. You looked after me. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately felt like a father. And he started advising, you're a young sannyasi. You shouldn't roam around and dance around like this. You should sit down and study the Vedanta Sutra. And you have a name that doesn't indicate a sannyasi. It indicates the assistant to a sannyasi. That's not very good. And he told his, I think his son-in-law, Gopinath Acharya, who was a great devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He told him that if you want, he can tell you, Lord Chaitanya, you call him that. You tell him that if you want, I can have a ceremony and change his name to a proper sannyas name. And Gopinath Acharya reacted by telling him, excuse me, do you know who has come to your house? The absolute truth described in the Vedas is in your house. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya very sarcastically said, oh really? I have read the entire Vedic literature. I am known as a Pandit. People come to consult with me. How come I don't know that the absolute truth has come to the house? He has a sarcastic remark like that. They've had a very nice discussion because they were very close and they normally have this philosophical discussion. And how is it that you know it and I don't know it, although we both are reading the same scripture? So Gopinath Acharya said, that is because sometimes people are benedicted, they have the mercy of the Lord to understand the Lord, and some don't. I said, oh, really? And how am I to know that you are the one who's got the mercy? Asked, Sarvabhauma Acharya. And then he replied saying that the fact that I am able to see the absolute truth and you're not able to shows that I have the mercy and you don't. That's very interesting. And he said, okay, we'll talk about it later. And he cut it there. But it is very interesting that Gopinath Acharya said, you don't know the absolute truth described in the Vedas is lying in your house. Which means he's a person. But he's a big time, Brahmavadi, Mayavadi, Sarvabhauma Acharya. He's not going to accept that so easily. That the absolute truth is a person and he's lying in my house. But that was the situation. And Gopinath Acharya could see that. And he knew the conclusion of the scriptures and he knew Krishna is here as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he has come here. He has got a purpose. And Sarvabhauma Acharya said, okay, let's see. He was open, intelligent man. And then, Lord Chaitanya got up, he took his bath and everything. He came and he was very humble towards Sarvabhauma Acharya. He had a real strategy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he was a big-time Mayavadi Pandit. This is exactly what Prabhupada said. The Brahmavadis, Mayavadis think Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. It's wrong. And Sarvabhauma Acharya is the epitome of that philosophy. He speaks that, lives that, believes that. And he has landed, the absolute truth has landed in his house. And he's a personality. It's very interesting. And then he goes to Lord Chaitanya and says that, you're too young. Shouldn't have taken sannyas. Anyway, I'll train you up. You should know the Vedanta Sutra, right? You don't know. So I'll tuition you. I'll give you tuition on the Vedanta Sutra. And it's very amazing that Lord Chaitanya accepted it. The Bhagavad Gita, Lord Chaitanya said, Vedaischa sarver hameva vedyah Vedanta krit vedavid evachaham. That same Krishna is mentioned. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Veda. I am the knower of the Veda. But here is Sarvabhauma Acharya saying, you don't know the Veda. I want to teach you. And Krishna becomes a student. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes a student. Right? And he teaches him for 7 days the Vedanta Sutra. Lord Chaitanya is patiently hearing. You can imagine what a lot of nonsense he must have heard for 7 days. Very patiently. And he happens to be the Supreme Lord. What patience you need if you want to preach. Right? He just waited for 7 days patiently. And Sarvabhauma Acharya, obviously, if you sit next to the Supreme Absolute Truth, the reality for 7 days, and even if you are talking to him, there will be some influence of the Supreme Lord on you, definitely. And he's been looking at him and speaking for 7 days. He actually developed an attraction towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But at the end of the 7 days, he said, listen, you've been hearing for so long. Why don't you say something, ask a question or something? Just sitting there. Why don't you ask a question or something? Say something. Student-teacher interaction. He said, have you understood what I'm saying? And Lord Chaitanya opened his mouth at that time. Krishna does not give advice unless he's asked for advice. In the Bhagavad Gita also, when Arjuna asked for Krishna's advice, Sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam, only then he offered advice. Till then he heard Arjuna saying a lot of things. So as soon as he was asked, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I know the Vedanta Sutra, but I can't understand what you are saying. One single comment. And that really irritated Sarvabhauma. What? I've been speaking for 7 days, and at the end of it you say, I know, and what I am saying is wrong. And you can't understand it. So what did you say? What did you speak? What do you know? It's a Pandit. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started explaining the Vedanta Sutra in very simplistic words, in a sequence. He didn't need 7 days. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. So he just spoke it. And it was so good, and it was so easy to understand, that every wrong thing that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had understood got straightened with that one conversation. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya cracked up. He said, wow, how is it that I'm understanding it so well now? And I thought I understood. You must be that absolute truth that the Vedas speak about. Gopinathacharya must be right. And then the more he heard, the more he saw the Lord, he became very deeply connected. And with a great emotion, he started crying. What a fool I am. Right? And he paid obeisances to the Lord and held his feet and started crying and said, what a stupid thing I did. I went and did a tuition for 7 days for the Supreme Absolute Truth. And I didn't know about it. And in a few words and sentences you speak, and I come to know everything about it. That time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Sarvabhauma actually came here to meet you. And he showed his 6-handed form. Ramachandra, Krishna, and Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Very beautiful form. In the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The Absolute Truth revealed himself to a Mayavadi, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya person. Right? Because he is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very merciful. So after that, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had everything in place, paka. He understood. And he was an old man. But they found him dancing wild on the streets in Kirtan. And the decent, cultured people, those who think, what happened to this Brahmana? This Sarvabhauma? He's dancing like a mad man. What's he doing? But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was in bliss. He had cracked it finally. He had understood the Absolute Truth. He had met with the Absolute Truth. He had fallen in love with the Absolute Truth. Many things had happened to him. Right? So somebody else commented and said, this is what happens if you meet Lord Chaitanya. He's a mad man. He makes other people also mad if you associate with him. So some people think that we are mad, that because we dance and chant on the streets. The first time that Prabhupada introduced Harinam Sankirtan in India, because all over the world they were doing Harinam and people were joining and dancing and they liked it, to see happy people dancing and chanting. But in India, when they did, the people came out in India and they did namaskar and threw coins and money. And they wrote to Prabhupada, how nice in India, it's so different, people throw money at us. And Prabhupada said, stop it, immediately stop the kirtan, don't do it. They think we are beggars. They think we are beggars, and so they're giving us money. Don't do it. So they stop the kirtan. Because they think you're begging. If you come on the streets and dance and chant, you're begging. A completely different notion. But sometimes they think these guys are mad. They should quietly sit somewhere peacefully in Vrindavan in a small mata or in a kutir and read and meditate. Spiritual life is about being very silent and quiet somewhere in the Himalayas, and then it's an internal thing. What are you doing dancing and chanting? That was the notion. So Sarvabhauma he had cracked open completely. He had understood the Absolute Truth. He became very joyous and happy. And he was like all the time wants to be with Lord Chaitanya. He said, every day you must come to me, eat in my house. And after that, he was like, totally changed. When Lord Chaitanya, the next day, came to Sarvabhauma's house and delivered Jagannath Prasadam personally to him. He had not even got up in the morning. He knocked the door and said, Sarvabhauma, this is Mahaprasadam from Jagannath. And as soon as he got out of bed, he didn't brush his teeth, nothing. He ate the Mahaprasad. Quoting a shloka from Padma Purana saying that whatever condition you are, if Mahaprasadam comes in front of you, you must honor it. Right? Then he danced and chanted immediately. And Lord Chaitanya also joined in. They jumped on top of the cot and they both were dancing and chanting. Everything changed for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Everything changed. He became an ecstatic devotee. Right? So, this is our process. Very easily accessible. The absolute truth has become very easily accessible. And simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, you can access the absolute truth. It has never been done before. It has never been Chirad Adattam. It has never been given like this before. So, we can understand the absolute truth is a person, and we can go beyond that and relate with him in love, in devotional service, and we can enjoy devotional service. This is what is the path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We don't think that the world is false. We think it belongs to Krishna. Isavashamidam sarvam. And we should take what is required for a little maintenance, be a minimalist, and then use everything in the service of the Lord. Because it's Krishna's energy. Nothing is mine. It belongs to Krishna. That change of mindset makes all the difference for a devotee. And it creates a completely different population of people. And this is the mission of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to change the world and make people understand how Krishna is a loving person and you can have a relationship with him by chanting the holy names. Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna. You have any comment or question? Briefly, that I'm supposed to go and meet Nityananda Prabhu now.
What's Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? What's his position in Krishna Lila?
He is Brihaspati, the guru of the demigods.
Oh,
How do you know if what you're doing is in service of Krishna or if it's just out of your own personal desire?
Because we follow Guru, we follow the instructions given by our founder Acharya, and we do it according to that. It's not something done out of your own imagination and your own desire. Because we don't know how it should be done. Therefore we follow Guru, we follow the Acharya. We are not doing something out of the fertile imagination that we have. You can't concoct. So therefore I know that this is what is to be done because it's mentioned by Prabhupada, it's mentioned by Krishna. Therefore it's right.
You say simply by chanting and doing things in service of Krishna, hypothetically, you will succeed in the material world.
I will succeed not only in the material world, I'll also succeed to the spiritual world. And that
More
is
importantly, the spiritual world.
Yeah. And Krishna guarantees that. You will come to me. He's saying that. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. I love you and therefore I want to give you this instruction. Follow this, you'll come back to me. This is a guarantee given by Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
You mentioned demigod worship. we heard that Durga Puja is coming up next week, which is a big thing for many people in India. What is Durga Puja and how does it pertain to Vaishnavas? How do we celebrate that?
Durga, Prabhupada explained, also means fort, fortress. And Durga is Maya Devi, who has built the fortress for all the conditioned souls in this world. And she's the keeper of that fort under the three modes of material nature. This is the Vaishnava understanding. But we also know that she is a great devotee. If you go to Mayapur, in the Simanta Dweep, that area, in fact in Rajapur we have a temple for her inside our Jagannath compound, Jagannath temple compound. Because she expressed that I got a thankless task to do. Nobody likes me. And she prayed to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya gave a special blessing. And she took the dust of his feet and put on her Shimanta. So that place called Shimanta Dweep. Right? So the Vaishnava understanding is of demigods is we see them as devotees doing their services, different type of services. But in the outside world, they may not see the absolute truth and the relation of the absolute truth with the demigods and how they are serving the absolute truth and how we are performing devotional service and how they are doing. It's like a very holistic, harmonious understanding, right? But they will be doing in the outside world. Durga Puja is like huge thing in places like Bengal and Orissa. They worship her as somebody who can give material prosperity and good gratification and this and that, completely for materialistic purposes. That sloka is also there in the Chaye Vayasya Bhuvanani Viparti Durga Icchan Rupam Apyasyate Ishtate Se Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bachami. The Brahma Samhita, this relation with all the demigods and with Krishna as the absolute truth explained. Chaya, like a shadow potency of the Supreme Lord. So, devotees don't worship demigods, but they respect demigods in their true position, which is maybe more pleasing to the demigods. Right? They respect them as Vaishnavas and they take their blessings for progressing in Krishna consciousness. Does it help? Thank you.
Hi Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranamal Krishna Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, as you were explaining about devotional service also, I was just thinking of like, can you give us some ways where we can bring intensity to our devotional service? We just don't do it for the sake of it, but take it to our heart so, we get deeper into this process.
That's a heavily loaded question for the morning Bhagavatam class, and it's very generic, but I'll try to be a little specific on that. How to be intense. We have splayed intelligence because of our material situation and our investment in the material world. That Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. What's the shloka? He knows. What's the shloka? Huh? Yes. You know that shloka? Yes. Bahushakahi anantascha buddhayo avyavasayinam. So, material life means not focused, but invested in many things and thinned out. Okay? Spiritual life means we know the absolute truth, we know Krishna, we want to go to Krishna. And Om Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi vyachakshura tatam tat vipraso vipinyavo jagruvagum sasamindate Vishnuryat paramam padam. My destination I know, Vishnu. And since that is always in focus, we will see everything in relation to that, whether it is useful for that or not. We may reject it. So intensity is about shedding our many splayed investments and directing it towards that one absolute truth, that only object. Ashraya, that's why it's called. And Krishna also uses the word Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Only me you surrender to. Focus only on me. So sometimes when you do that, intensity increases. The more we shimmy in and bring our attention towards the Lord, then our intensity actually increases. It's like, in your younger days in the physics classes, you may be told, but how to use a lens and set fire to a piece of paper. With a magnifying glass, you can just bring it like that and poof, it catches fire. And why doesn't it catch fire when the lens is not there? It won't, because it's spread. Then you can focus it like that, it can catch fire. So intensity means that focus it, it will catch fire. So we need to orient our lifestyle, our sadhana, our chanting of the holy name especially focused. I think that will increase your intensity.
Thank you so much. Please give your blessings, Maharaj.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Any other question? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. It was a wonderful class. My question is about, since you narrated beautiful pastime of Lord Chaitanya, we happen to hear that in the 7th Manvanta, 28th Kali Yuga, he appears as he is in his original form, and he gives us Sankirtan movement. So we also happen to hear that in other Kali Yugas as well, he appears as Gaur Narayan. So I was wondering, what is his mission? And because Hare Krishna Mahamantra, as is given to us in this particular yuga, Kali Yuga, I was wondering what is his mission and how does he spread in other Kali Yugas, and is he mentioned in any scriptures? Gaur Narayan.
I don't know whether I have read that in Prabhupada's books, that in other Kali Yugas he comes as Gaura Narayan.
I heard that from Chandramali Swami once in his lecture.
I don't know, there has to be a reference somewhere in the Shastra. It will be better. But I know that the Lord appears in once in a day of Brahma. And that time it's the supreme absolute truth, Krishna Shyama Sundara, who is appearing. But in other times, there is an expansion, avatar of Krishna. He is also blue colored. That is mentioned. But that's not the original Krishna. Now, it's also mentioned that once in a day of Brahma, Krishna appears, and once in a day of Brahma also Lord Chaitanya appears. We are talking about that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and that Krishna. We are talking about the supreme absolute truth. Right? So, once in a day of Brahma, yeah. And as far as Harinam, whether in other Kali Yugas it is propagated or... Harinam is always propagated in every yuga. The importance of the holy name is stressed. But it becomes more relevant in Kali Yuga because every other marga or process becomes defunct. And it's only Harinam that you can do. So it becomes prominent. And not only that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears and says, do it. But in other yugas, there are other processes that's happening. Like Bali Maharaj, this is when, I think it's in Satya Yuga, Vamana Dev and all that. Treta Yuga, is it? Yeah, Treta Yuga. So at that time, don't think that there was no holy name. Because Shukracharya will reveal to Vamana, after Vamana has pushed Bali down to Sutala planet, humiliated him and everything, cheated him, he will actually come back to Shukracharya because he must be feeling pretty bad. His disciple did not listen to him, disobeyed him, and lost everything. And he may curse. He actually cursed. So he went to Shukracharya and said, "You're so great, you're wonderful, you're such a Brahmana, you're that, you're this," and flattered him. And Shukracharya became a little pacified. And then he told him, "Don't curse your disciple Bali." Right? And then he glorified him, and when he said all these things, Shukracharya was happy. And he told Vamana that, "Actually, I want to tell you my secret. My secret is mantratas tantratas chidram. I do mantra, tantra, homa, yajna. I brought back all of them to life and all that, all the demons. I did many things. There is all chidram means there are all sorts of holes in it, imperfections, doshas. Desha kalarha vastutah. Vastu means the ingredients, dravya. Desha kala means time, place. In all these things there are holes. It's not so easy to get it done so perfectly. Sarvam karoti nischidram anusankirtanam tava. But I plug all the holes by chanting your holy name. It's so powerful. And so at that time, Shukracharya was chanting the holy name to make his homa and yajnas efficient. So holy name has always been powerful. But then some other processes are the yuga dharmas, and so they become prominent. So it's always mentioned that the chanting of the holy name is the easiest way. Bhakti is powerful and everything. So at some particular times when there's no other go, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears and says, "Do this." That's the way I understood it. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the ISKCON Dallas Kalachanji experience.